Hello, my name's Ian Anson Gray, and in this episode of the Podcaster Hour, I'm talking about killer repurposing techniques for your live shows. So let's get on with it now.
Welcome to the Podcaster Hour from Ecamm, helping entrepreneurs, business owners, and live streamers launch a podcast with success using the power of Ecamm Live. Grow your audience and expand your reach, and learn how to plan, promote, produce, and repurpose your live show and podcast. Here's your host, Ian Anderson Gray.
Well, hello. Welcome to episode 8 of the Podcaster Hour. This is the show that helps you launch your podcast through the power of Ecamm Live. This goes live every Monday at 4 p.m. in the UK. That's 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific. And in today's show, this is episode 8, I'm going to be sharing with you killer repurposing techniques for your live shows. Now, launching a podcast from your live show is probably the ultimate type of repurposing, and I've talked about that on every single episode of this series. But in today's show, I'm going to be sharing some other ways that you can repurpose your live shows. As always, if you have any questions, just put that in the comments with a big capital Q at the beginning so that I know whether that's a question or not. But I would love to know what you think are good ways to repurpose your live shows. Now, let's see. Question, actually. So yeah, do keep the questions coming. This question from Rob Charles. Does Ecamm allow you to save your audio as an MP3, like, for example, StreamYard and other tools? Absolutely. It will actually record the video and the audio as an MP3. It's even better than that though. So you've got this new feature that allows you to record ISO recording. You don't have to use this, but this is great for podcasters. It will actually record your audio, your guest's audio, the soundtrack, the sound effects, your movie audio in separate files. So that is useful if you want to then edit for later. So that's a new feature in Ecamm Live, which is absolutely amazing. Rob, I hope that is helpful. Awesome. Okay, so let's get on with what we're going to talk about today. Killer repurposing techniques for your live shows. And the first part of it is the production side of things. I think it's really important before you get on with repurposing to think about how you're going to structure your live show. So that makes it easier to repurpose in the future. This is really important. And actually, what I want to do is share this amazing article that a friend of mine, Amy Woods, wrote on my blog. It is called How to Repurpose Your Live Videos into an Arsenal of New Content. How to repurpose your live videos into an arsenal of new content. It is amazing. I'm going to be covering a lot of this article in my episode today. So loads and loads of stuff about repurposing 101 and the different ways of doing your show, of repurposing your live show into loads of different ways. Definitely check out that article. I've linked to it in the comments. But let's talk about how you can structure your show. If you've been watching this live, you'll see that I've had a live segment at the beginning, and then I have a hook before I then play my intro music and then get on with the show. That's deliberate because what I want to do is for my replay audience, if I was turning this into a podcast, I don't want the beginning bit, which is focused on my live audience, to get into the podcast. It doesn't make sense to have all of that more informal chat at the beginning in the podcast and into other types of repurposing techniques that I have. So I structure my show that makes better use of the replay part of it. So I structure it really well from that point of view. Let's go back to this. I plan and produce my live show with repurposing in mind. You may have little segments in your live show that you want to be able to edit out because it doesn't make sense for the podcast or for other ways. That's the first thing to talk about. The second thing is that this is not strictly repurposing, but you can multi-stream your live shows. If you use a tool like Restream, which works perfectly with Ecamm, you can broadcast to LinkedIn Live, to Facebook, to YouTube, to Mixcloud, to a plethora of different destinations. And one thing that you can do, this works particularly well with YouTube and LinkedIn. If you broadcast to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, you can trim the beginning of those videos off. And that's what I do in this show. I trim that beginning bit off so that the replay audience gets straight in with the content. And that works really well. So what I do is I'll, for example, put the image up here, and then I'll get straight in with my hook, and then I'll play my intro video like this.
Welcome to the pod.
So I start those videos. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, you'll see just that hook. You won't see the live element beforehand. And of course, if you've missed out on that live element, you can join us next week when we do go live, and you can actually watch it live. So that works really well. You can get on YouTube, you can have a regular YouTube video from your live shows, and on LinkedIn and on Facebook. It works so well. We're using the power of multi-streaming. So I love that part of it. The production side is when it starts. Obviously, you've got to plan it, but the production is when the repurposing starts. Plan and produce your live show with repurposing in mind. The run of show is so important. And if you want to know more about the run of show, just go back to the previous episodes of this, and I do go through how you can structure your live show. And that is definitely with repurposing in mind, because it's all about podcasting. And then finally, in the production side of things, you could think about multi-streaming. This is totally optional, but multi-streaming makes it a lot easier for you to broadcast to those other channels. If you don't have Restream, or if you just want to keep it simple, then what you can do is just broadcast to, say, Facebook, record the video in Ecamm, and then edit it, and then upload it up to YouTube and LinkedIn and those other things as well. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. So it works so well. I love it. I love it. So that is the production side of things. And that brings me on to the second thing, which is audio repurposing. So this is the first part of repurposing. So you can turn your live show into a podcast. We can focus on audiograms, audio snippets, and even Amazon Alexa flash briefings if you're feeling fancy. So I've talked all about podcasting on the show and the different ways to do that. Make sure that you record all of your live shows in Ecamm. It'll record the MP4 and also the audio side of things as well. If you've got the pro version of Ecamm, you can also save the different tracks as well. So you've got your track, your guest's track as separate tracks. And that is really cool. Definitely check that out. One of the things you can do is, once you've done your podcast, you can think about creating audiograms, a tool that I love, and it's called Headliner. What I've done here is I've taken a little snippet of my podcast from a live show. I had Christine Tremolay on my show. She's amazing because she actually came up with the name WordPress. She came up with WordPress. She actually named it. The co-founder of WordPress asked her, and she came up with the idea of WordPress. So there you go. Anyway, she was on my show. What I did is I uploaded the audio into Headliner. This is headliner.app. Then what you can do is you can add a progress animation at the bottom. So I've done that. I've got this color here. And as you go through, this will show a progress animation, which works well, particularly for the likes of Instagram as well, so people know how long the video is going to be. Then I've also got a transcript. I actually don't have a transcript on this one, but you can upload a transcript if you want. And then we've also got a visualization for the audiogram here. So I've got this as a pulse wave style. Let me just show you this. I'll play it. So hopefully this will come through.
Work on it, but don't use it as an excuse to put off reaching out to your potential clients, because if you have a message that the world needs it. Like, they're waiting to hear from you. And it's a shame to say, oh, I don't like how I look on camera, and therefore I'm not going to do it.
So that just makes the audio just pop a lot more. Now, of course, we could put a video on here, but if you're wanting to publicize your podcast, an audiogram is really good. You can put your guest on there. You can put other stuff on there as well. So that's the pulse one. Let's change it to, say, we could do wave bars like that. That might be a bit over the top, but let's just push it down to the bottom and play that again.
Work on it, but don't use it as an excuse to put off.
That looks okay, but let's maybe do a line like that. I quite like this one. Let's just maybe put that into the middle like that. Okay.
Off reaching out to your potential clients, because if you have a message.
So there you go. That's one way of using Headliner, just by uploading your audio, and then we can put some audio visualizations on there as well. And of course, you could also put the text on there. Headliner will actually transcribe the text for you, or you could use a service like rev.com, which I love, and upload that into it there. So I could upload my captions directly onto Headliner. So that works really, really well. I love Headliner. It is absolutely awesome. I use it all the time, basically. So there you go. Those are audiograms platforms, those little snippets and other tools that you could use. There's Descript, which I've mentioned before. Descript allows you to edit audio and video and get little audio snippets out there. Works really well. Now, I've not done the next one. This is Amazon Alexa Flash Briefings. If you're watching live or the replay, let me know if you've messed around with this. I actually don't have an Alexa. I've got the Google version. I'm not going to say it in case I trigger it. In fact, sorry if anyone owns the Amazon version of this and I've triggered it. So this is steps to create a flash briefing. Basically what this is, if you have the Amazon device, the audio microphone devicey thing, whatever you want to call it, then what you can do is create like a really short daily podcast. Just, it could be like a minute long, that kind of thing. So what you need to do, first of all, is register as an Amazon developer, create a flash briefing skill. You just log into it, and then you can then upload this little mini podcast onto Amazon. It works really well. So that's what you do with that. The Amazon Alexa flash briefing works really well. Let's have a look at some comments. Challenge ITV is asking a question. Are you using script to structure the repurposing? So I'm not entirely sure what you mean, but basically what I do is I do have a run of show, which is a kind of a script, and I structure that. I don't put what I'm saying word for word, but I have bullet points. So I know what I'm saying. I know what's coming on next. That's what I do. Really, really helpful when it comes to the repurposing. And then it also makes it easier for me to know when I'm saying those certain things for later. So I hope that helps. Camilla says, sweet from Sweden. Checking out all your videos to use my live streams as podcasts. Planning is so important. So true. I love to hear what you have to say about this. Planning is absolutely vital. You need to plan everything for the structure of the show so that it makes it easier for repurposing. You definitely need to know that. Challenge ITV says, how do you break down the content for different platforms, blogs, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc.? So far, I've just been talking about multi-streaming or the streaming part of it and for the podcast part of it. So I've structured the show in a way that I can just take the main section for the podcast. And that's also the case for the video as well. But what I've done, for example, with Headliner, and I'll show you a little bit more about how you can do that from a video point of view. If I have a guest on, I will just take a little snippet. If they've shared a golden nugget, I will just edit that little bit out, and then that will be the little audio or video snippet that I share. If it's a longer section, so for example, in this show, you may notice that you probably haven't noticed yet because I haven't finished the show, but I've actually got 3 sections to this. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3. So I could share those 3 different sections, say to YouTube or to LinkedIn, and do it that way. I hope that helps. Rob says, Headliner is brilliant. I use it to add my voiceovers. Rob Charles is an amazing voiceover artist. Let us know a bit more about what you do in the comments, Rob. But yeah, it is awesome for that. So you can add your own voiceovers and do it that way. And Kombucha says, I found out about Headliner from them. Amazing .rock. Used it only once, but should incorporate it more. It is amazing. Mark says, do you use contracts or release forms for your show guests, Ian? Really interesting question. No, I don't. I don't do that. I've never actually I've been a guest on many shows. I've had many guests on my shows, and I've never done that. But it's an interesting point. I think I'm very open about the fact that my show goes live everywhere, becomes a podcast. I'm really open about that. And if people aren't wanting any of that, then they won't sign up for it. So I've personally never had the need of having a contract or a release form. I personally feel that would just be unnecessary, a bit too much stuff going on. But maybe, Mark, you've had a different kind of experience there. So let me know about that. Ms. Drix asks a question. Do you post the same content across all your social media platforms, or do you tweak them to fit certain audiences? And the answer to that question, I'm going to talk about this later, actually. But the answer is yes and yes. So I sometimes will post the same content to different platforms, and sometimes I will repurpose them. And sometimes you have to repurpose them. Sometimes, for example, Instagram TV or Twitter, they have different lengths. So you need to think about that. And also there's the different audiences. You've got to think about that as well. So definitely check out that. Awesome. So if you just joined me, this is the Podcaster Hour from Ecamm. And in today's show, I'm sharing how you can repurpose your live show into amazing things. We're talking about killer repurposing techniques. If you've got any questions or any thoughts on this, do pop it in the comments. Just put a little Q at the start of it. Cool. So let's go on to the next one. So just talked about audio repurposing. Now we're going to be talking about video repurposing. And I mentioned the article on my blog about how to repurpose your live shows. And that was written by a friend of mine, Amy Woods. She is the founder and the CEO of Content 10X, and they are all about repurposing. They are amazing. And she put that blog post together. One of her little phrases is turning your live videos into video babies, making sure that your live video gives birth to lots of video babies. Don't just go live and then leave it like that. That's such a shame. You put so much effort into your live show. Why not turn it into a podcast? And why not let it give birth into lots of different video babies so that you can post on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on IGTV, on Twitter, loads of places like that. And there are loads of tools to help you here. For example, there's Descript is a great tool. It allows you to edit your videos and your audio. You can just edit the words out and do lots of really cool things that way. You can do audio as well. There's Headliner, which I've talked about. There's Rev, which is a transcription tool. There are some free ones out there, but Rev is particularly good. They use real life human beings to do that. And of course, you can publish on YouTube, and there's Pinterest as well. Don't forget about Pinterest. You can put some snippets onto Pinterest as well. Of course, there's other types of tools as well that you could use. You don't have to use Descript. You could use ScreenFlow, which is a great tool for Mac. You could use, if you're feeling a bit more geeky, you could use Adobe Premiere Pro or Adobe Audition. And of course, there's things like there's GarageBand, there's iMovie, all those kind of things. And Mark Orr was saying, so release forms are a throwback from my video production days, but I wasn't sure if I should for my upcoming shows. So in my experience, no, I think they're unnecessary. I'd be interested to know what other people think about that. I think it really depends on what it is. For example, I think it is useful is if you are doing a paid summit or like a big event, like a conference, for example, then in that case, I think it makes sense to have a contract and release forms, because if you're making money from it directly, then it makes sense to do that. But for regular shows, for podcasts, I don't think you need to do that. That's my experience anyway. Let's go back to Headliner, and I'm going to show you. Okay, this was another example, actually. Let me just show you another audio example, and then I'll show you a video example. So this is one I had Lou Mangello on the show.
I do believe in the friend, not fan. I don't like that word fan, because in these mediums, that's how viewers and listeners see you. They look at you as a friend. You're so much a part of their life and their routine. When they download the show or they tune in every Wednesday, whatever it is, they look at you as a friend, and you need to give them that same respect back. We're in the relationship business, and that's exactly what this allows us to do.
I kind of wanted to share that quote with you anyway, because it's the most amazing quote, because community is everything. It's such a big thing when it comes to live video, and the Ecamm live community is amazing. You watching are amazing. And so I just want to thank you, first of all, for turning up, engaging with the show and with the community. Doc Rock is amazing. He's definitely one of the reasons why this community is amazing, and all Katie and Caleb and the team. So first of all, just want to say that. But this shows you an example of, you can actually see we've got the transcript there, and that works really well. But the other thing you can do is you can put your video into this. So these are all Square, by the way. I like Square because it works on Facebook, it works on Twitter, it works on LinkedIn really well. It even works on Instagram. You can repurpose these into portrait for IGTV and Instagram stories, which I do. This is one that I've done for a show. I've got the transcription, we've got the video from the live show. This is just a little snippet.
Avoid all the gobbledygook jargon, strategic staircases, low-hanging fruit, focusing on the crocodiles nearest the boat, putting a record on to see if anybody dances, all of that sort of nonsense, that we see people using, and we laugh at it, but people still talk about it. It just makes me laugh. But for me, if live video is so good because it's you, yeah. And if you haven't had somebody write the script for you, if it's genuinely you saying what you're going to say, you're going to communicate at your own level. You're going to communicate to your customer, that ideal customer, the picture of which might be stuck on top of.
Okay, I won't play all of it, but you get the idea. What I've done here is the middle bit, that is the video from Ecamm Live that I've taken, and then I put that on top of an image. So the image where you see Confident Live Marketing Podcast, and the red bit at the bottom is an image. It's not an overlay. It's like the video is the overlay. And then what I've done is I've gone to the transcript. What I particularly like here is I can click on that, and I've chosen the bold description, and I put that there at the bottom. So that works really well. You can even do, for example, animations. You can do a little karaoke animation. I'm not sure I particularly want this, but let's look at this, what this looks like. So
camera, and that's the way to communicate. That's how to keep it simple.
Yeah, so you could do that. And then at the end, what I've got is I've got a little video at the end, or little bit of audio at the end, which was my theme music for that. So that's another thing you can do. You can turn your live videos to lots of video babies. Those square ones will work on Facebook. I've got them to about 30 seconds to a minute and a half. I've got them on IGTV, on Instagram. They can even work on Instagram stories as well if you make them portrait, and you can use tools like Descript, Headliner, Rev as well. And if you want to make slightly longer clips, you could make them into, say, 3 or 4 minute clips and upload to the likes of LinkedIn or YouTube and do it that way. It works so well. That's one of the things that I love about Headliner, Descript, and all those other tools. They work so well. Okay, let's look at the comments. Katie says, I love the way you are using your theme music in the background of that clip. I've talked about this on the show before. Audio branding is so important. So I think when it comes to your podcast, for your live show, I think audio branding is really important. So I use the same music. For example, if I go to this, you might be able to hear in the background, I've got the same music that I play at the beginning. And that's kind of part of the audio branding. And so I think if you've got music that you can play underneath, that makes a lot of sense. So thanks for that, Katie. And of course, you need to make sure that what's really important here is that you use music that you have a license for, that's either copyright free or you have a license for. As Luria recommends, I also recommend Epidemic Sound. They are amazing, very inexpensive, and it just means you're covered from a licensing point of view. Miss Drix is saying all this in Headliner. So yes, so let me just show you. This is what you see when you sign up for Headliner. You've got an audiogram wizard. So this is turning audio clips into short videos, full episodes. So up to 2 hours of audio into video. So this is, you take the audio and then you can add your audiogram onto that. Video transcript. This turns your video. Basically, you can add captions to that as well. You can also, I've never done this, but they will transform each episode of any podcast into shareable videos. I think what that does is you probably link your podcast feed into this. And of course, you can just use the basic editor. It works really well. And thank you, Principles of Success. The 2 speakers in the square is genius. Yeah, so I didn't come up with this idea, but it's just an easy way to turn a rectangular landscape image into a square. Works really well. Carl says, when first setting off, do you think an intro with theme music is a good idea? How do beginners do such things? For the podcast side of things, you don't need an intro. You don't actually need anything. You can just get started. You could just record your own voice. What you could do, for example, this is what I used to do, get some music that you have a license for, so use the likes of Epidemic Sound or somewhere else, and then just record your own voice on top of it. So, for example, I could just put some music on like this, which is a bit quiet in the background. I could say, welcome to the Podcaster Hour with Ian Answer Gray, the show that helps you launch your podcast with success. And that's all you would need. Just keep it really simple. Once you've got started with that, then by all means, you could even go to the likes of Fiverr, or I'm a big fan of Music Radio Creative. They do all of my intros. So the intro that I use at the beginning and the outro is all for Music Radio Creative. So you can actually pay the likes of Music Radio Creative about £15, $15 for them to record the intro for you. Where do you get your music for the audio branding? Let me just share the 2 places that I particularly like. And I've used loads of different places. I just find these really helpful. So the first place is Epidemic Sound. So epidemicsound.com. They have personal and a commercial plan on this. So I don't know what it is in other places, but in the UK, it's £10 per month. £96 per year for the personal, which is probably fine for most people, but they also have other plans as well. You could just do that for a couple of months, download the audio, and then use that in the first couple of episodes. If you keep publishing new episodes, then you do need to have a valid license. But if you stop paying them, then all your previous stuff is covered. That's the first thing to say. Then Music Radio Creative is what I use for my intros and outros. So if we just go to voiceovers, for example, this is Al. So this would cost £15.85.
Take Petey with you for on the road. Go to your favorite download store to...
And of course, I had Mike Russell on the show. You can get him to do your intro.
You are now listening to DJ Harv's In the Mix. Ladies and gentlemen, give way for DJ with Name on 107.1 Taps Radio. Today's episode is brought to you by Check.
If you want an American voice, you can do, well, that's, you've got lots of different voiceovers. You've got, for example, Australian, Irish, you've even got Portuguese, Spanish, and all those kind of things. Works really well. So I hope that answers your question. Pascal is saying, perhaps a silly question for the audiogram. Do you need to upload a snippet, or can you upload the full episode and then select a short segment on the headliner dashboard? Yes, you can do that. You don't have to use the whole thing. So it's easier to create the snippet first, because then if you upload it, then it takes obviously a long time to upload the whole episode. But you can do that and then just select which bit you want. You can absolutely do that. Works really well. And Doc Rock is saying you can buy an intro from MRC, Music Radio Creative, or if you do check out their Free Jingle Fridays, so they go live every Friday, you can actually win one. So you could do that. Do check them out. They are awesome. Let's get on with the next part of the show. I've mentioned all of that. I haven't mentioned video pins, but do check out Pinterest and look at video pins, because that is definitely something you could look into. So don't forget, Pinterest can work really well. Okay, the next thing is image repurposing, images and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you what I've been doing recently. I've actually got help from a designer, but you don't need to get a designer to help you here. Let's go to easel.com. So I've got a show coming up this week, and I'm creating these, for example. These are for YouTube and Facebook and for my blog as well. But what I can do is I can then repurpose these and resize them into different ones. So for example, I could copy and resize that. I don't know if you can see this okay. For example, this might look a bit weird, but I could do a Pinterest one. Now that doesn't look quite so good, but I could just resize that slightly, make it look a bit better on Pinterest. Let's make me a bit bigger as well. Put me down there. Okay, I'm going to have to move that slightly over there, aren't I? And then move that down there, make that a little bit bigger as well. So I'm going to make that more like 120 maybe. That's not the best one maybe. I need to move that image slightly over. Okay, so anyway, you get the idea. So this is now an image for Pinterest. Let's just resize that slightly so you can see okay. But yeah, this is using easel.com, or you could use Canva. One of those tools works really well. So create those images, create a template. It's really important to create a template first and do it that way. Images, Pinterest, and you can create infographics as well. Let's go on to the next section, which is text repurposing. Turn your podcast and your live shows into blog posts, into tweets, into email and courses, content upgrades. You can use services like Quora and Reddit. What I use here, I use either like Descript or Rev, and I'll transcribe my live shows and podcasts into words, into a transcript, so I can then turn it into a blog really easily. And if you wanted to know an example of this, if you just go to iag.me/podcast, you can see what I do for this. So if I go to Google Chrome here, and you can see, for example, this is my recent one. So I've got my image there. And this is when I had Janet Murray on my show. So I've got some bullet points up there with some timestamps. I've got my podcast there, so you can listen to.
Hello and welcome to episode 95 of.
And then I've also got the blog post here as well, so you can read the blog, which I've transcribed. And then right at the bottom, you've also got the video as well. Don't forget written content. Written content is so powerful, and we believe it's so powerful that we're turning all of these shows into blog posts, individual blog posts on the Ecamm blog. So definitely check that out. Use services like Descript, Rev.com. They work really well. And of course, if it's a very long show, then you could create content upgrades. This will give you most of the article, but if you want some of the raw nuggets, then you have to leave your email address in there, and you can be given it as a PDF download and things like that. So that works really well. Almost out of time. So much to share today, but I do want to share 3 things that you need to be aware of, 3 things that are a potential problem for you. The first thing is when you go live, it's easy to just set and forget. So you just go live, you press the end broadcast button or the finish button in Ecamm, then you just get on with your life. And what a waste is what I want to say. You could do so many other things. You could turn it into a podcast. You can turn it into a blog post. You can do all these different things. So don't just be lazy. Put some effort into your repurposing. So important. The next thing is not respecting the platform. The different channels are different. So my LinkedIn audience are different to my Facebook audience. And so I want to treat those audiences with respect. Don't just bung all your content everywhere all at the same time. Build your community on those different channels in a different way. And also respect the fact that, for example, Twitter, if you're uploading a video to Twitter, you have 240 or is it 120 seconds? I can never remember. It's either 120 seconds or 240 seconds. That's the limit. And it's the same on, for example, Instagram stories. You've got 15 seconds. So make sure that you create content that works for those different platforms as well. And then the other thing that's so important, that if you're not consistent, that's going to be a bad thing. So make sure that you make every single episode that you do, if it's a weekly live show, that you turn every one of those into a podcast, that you turn them into videos every week. You don't just do it as a one-off. That's so important. So I think we are at the end of today's show. That is it for this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And until next time, I encourage you to launch your podcast with success through the power of Ecamm Live. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Podcaster Hour from Ecamm, helping entrepreneurs, business owners, and live streamers launch a podcast with success using the power of Ecamm Live. That's it for this week, but do tune in next time. See you soon, and toodaloo!